All right, here we go. So, all right, welcome everybody to our community call as per usual. I think we're on a roll with these. Like we've had one every week as of late. So doing good, making sure everybody's up to date on everything that's going on.
Also, sorry, just like not to interrupt you, like I see like a bunch of Discords like do this differently. Some divided by like work stream, some do like podcasts only. If you guys have like ideas on like how better to like do them, like feel free to let us know.
Yeah. Other than that, we'll just keep winging it because people seem to like this format as well. So, um, cool. I didn't really set an agenda for this just because we have like a bunch of stuff to talk about, ranging from like Pyrex, like all of the V2 stuff, Pyrex, rlBTRFLY, latest hidden hand stuff, and vibes, whatever that means. I just wrote that in just in case anybody wanted to vibe out and talk about whatever. So, freestyle format's good. Yeah, awesome. Then we'll just keep doing that for now. What do we want to start with? Do we want to start with Pyrex stuff? Do we want to start with our butterfly stuff? Where do we want to kick it off?
Um, let's start with Pyrex stuff since let's start with Pyrex stuff since that's the
Cool.
latest.
Let's run it. KP, I'll let
Um,
you take the stage here in a second. Sammy, did you have something you wanted to add first?
no, Lucky,
Okay,
you go
cool.
first.
Okay. Um,
No pressure, just general updates, man. No, you don't have to do anything crazy.
I know everyone. I don't know. Yeah. So Pyrex. So we launched about 10 days ago, and the traction has been pretty awesome. I mean, for what for the current market conditions. So far we have about 40,000 CVX that isn't owned by Redacted that was locked with protocol. So that's and yeah, I pretty happy. I know we kind of have this joke where we're pricing everything in peak prices. So at CVX's peak, 390K CVX would be about $23 million. So I think everyone feels a little better when we. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of depressing, but anyway, yeah, nice pat in the back, I suppose. 40K CVX in 10 days, and that's before the next mass unlock. And I really appreciate the community answering questions and helping other people understand like what we're offering here because we truly do believe that um, we're making CVX or VLCVX a better product for most people. So, and I guess it'll be a good chance to talk about fees and stuff because I think those are sticking points and things that Colton mentioned there's FUD around. And so just kind of want to provide like, I don't know, a few sentences about, yes, there are fees. And I think you should definitely, I don't know, I think that's a great thing because it means that there are incentives for us to remain good actors and also um, a way for us to generate additional resources so that one, we could either sustain our efforts or incentivize other developers, which is something that we're
And
going to be actively doing.
and majority of the fees are going to you guys through
Yeah,
RL. So
yeah, exactly. At the same time, Funky could go into this, but on the workshop we shared a spreadsheet where we crafted certain models to prove that or at least have some sort of backing for our claims that we're going to achieve like a comparable yield. So Funky, you want to I don't know touch?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people. I mean, like if anybody's aware with the kind of some of the Twitter arguments that were put up there, like there's a lot of fees. Like obviously, there are some fees, and not to name any names, but like compared to some other kind of liquid CVX alternatives out there, their fees are sometimes higher, and sometimes they're broadly around the same. But they're also providing a different product. And when you choose my words carefully here, not to go anything. So like the thing with UCVX, for example, which has like the majority of the fees, right? It's like a 10% fee on yield, etc. But I think it's the only truly auto compounding VLCVX kind of product in the space. If you look at other products, they may be compounding to 3 different tokens, or they may be compounding to 2 different tokens. Whereas with UCVX, you get in there, you come out, you go in with 1 token, you come out with the same token, but with more of it, right? So for a shrimp user like myself, that's ideal. Like, it's set and forget, and you're saving tons on fees, etc. And to add to KP's point is that the fees, we've done it in a way which ensures that we're creating value for people, so that they are getting the same, well, they're getting an APY that is the same or higher than the uncompounded Vodium APR. So you're getting the benefit of liquidity, you're getting the benefit of auto compounding, without having to do everything that a whale like Tetra would have to do with their Volux CVX. And the last thing I'll just say is that there's a lot of chat about fees, and a lot of the fees are hard to compare because it's not like one fee. It's kind of like fees in different places, and there's like withdrawal fees which aren't actually a fee. They're just kind of a mechanism to prevent people from gaming the system. But the best way I think for people to really compare is on next week we'll have the first round done, and we'll be able to post a kind of APY figure for that round, and how that compared. And that's the best metric for people to be like, instead of saying X and X's fees is this much, ours is this much, it's like the best way to do it is really just like, what is the APY, what is the kind of bottom line figure.
Yeah. And that was great, Funky. And yeah, we're not shy about sharing what the fees are and being transparent about it, because at the end of the day, if Pyrex isn't, the right fit for you, then you definitely shouldn't use it. But at the same time, I think it's important to consider all the different, components, because you are paying fees, but you're also receiving something in return, right? If it was just simply a liquid wrapper, that's one thing, but I think the people who are complaining are not taking a holistic view of all the different benefits and the use cases. Anyway, I'm not gonna keep beating a dead horse, but happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, if anybody has questions on this stuff, just use the community call chatter, and we'll like work them in. It looks like somebody's typing, so I'll wait a second and then.
Yeah. So just recapping what's already been released, we launched with easy mode, which basically is a hands-off, like the hands-off component of Pyrex, where you deposit your CVX. That CVX earns yield, of course, and that yield is automatically collected for you and turned into more CVX. It's the option that people want to use if they don't have time to manage their own rewards and a number of other things. But so that's easy mode. And next we're going to be launching standard mode, which allows you to like, the reason why we're calling it standard or normal mode is because it's going to be it will allow you to replicate a normal like VL CVX position. So you could deposit the CVX, initiate redemptions, or initiate a redemption so that you'll be able to redeem your CVX in 17 weeks, while also having all the other benefits of Pyrex. So if anyone, I guess, wants to retain like a similar experience to lock in with Convex now, they can do so with standard mode. I mean, just as I mentioned, you could deposit your CVX, get PxCVX, initiate a redemption, and redeem your CVX in 17 weeks, and also get the tokenized version, or the tokenized yield for the 17 weeks, all the different rounds, and also be able to sell your PxCVX. But it will be a different form. Like, we'll go into that later.
Yeah.
That's standard mode.
Let's talk about the gauge, right?
Before that, we have 2 things on the fees. So one person asked, can you list all the fees? We're not going to do it like over voice, but for anybody like listening to the recording, you can just go to the documentation, or docs.redactedcartel.xyz, and you'll actually find the fee tiers on there, and it kind of explains how all of it works. And then somebody kind of, XAG made a comment about just like how the current fee structure is peanuts over a typical targeted hold period, which is like, that's kind of the point we're making, is that like smaller holders would not be able to participate in similar stuff like this because gas fees would just like eat them alive, right? So for a smaller holder or even a holder that's like really lazy, being able to just set and forget about this stuff and paying a fee for convenience, I think it is a really good deal for them, regardless of what it is, especially with the APY being what it is. So just wanted to add that in before we go to the next thing.
I was gonna say, let's talk about the gauge, right? Oh, Omnia wants to come on stage. Let's bring them on.
Yeah, you're on stage.
No, I'm bringing Omnia on stage.
Okay.
So the gauge, right? Like, so obviously, like, there's will be like an increase in usage once, like, we deploy this like PX, CVX farm, right? Because, as you can imagine, like, this is just like the ultimate way to play CVX, right? If you have some of the CVX assets, you have some of the liquid CVX, and you don't want to lock, right? Like, liquid staking for CVX is like very low, right? Like you're not getting even like 5% on it.
3%. Yeah, 3%.
3%, something really low, right? So um basically, like, we are talking with like the curve risk team, like we're gonna get them to, like, help make a report on it, so that when we go up for the gauge vote, like, everything goes smoothly. There has been some like problems in the past with like some of the other liquid wrappers, right? But like we don't fall under those like same problems, right? Like, one of the reasons like another liquid wrapper like didn't pass was because they used the underlying CVX voting power to vote for themselves, right? Or vote for like things that are in like their best interest. We're not doing that, right? Like, this is an auto compounder, and on top of that, like, even if you want to like hold the voting power that comes with your CVX position, you can still do that, right? Um, so like the main issue with like um some of the other liquid wrappers like don't classify for us, but like, it would help. I guess this is some people have like a bad taste in their mouth with some of these other products, right? So um we're going to, like, get them to like help make a statement on it. We're just like answering their questions right now. Obviously, we have like the homies Tetra, some of the other DAOs that we've helped, that will like also help, like, push it through. And then, like, we'll start pointing some of the CVX that we own also with some of the CVX that's in the Pyrex product to, like, direct it towards that farm. So it'll be like a pretty like enjoyable experience for those who do not want to lock their CVX up, and perhaps like just want to like generate yield, right? Um, yeah, that's is there anything else on the gauge that we want to add?
I don't think so. When the vote goes live,
I
just
think
vote
that's it.
yes. Pretty easy, right? Just
Yeah.
just vote yes. Because I mean, it just makes the Pyrex experience better, and it helps us realize the value prop a lot more. The more liquidity that's there, and the more that it's actively traded, right? The more people that are paying attention to the pool, more people that are trading, the more liquidity, the more Pyrex's value prop shines through.
Let's talk about some of the other stuff we've been doing with the CVX. So you guys might have noticed, like, we started doing like this OTC bribe agreement with Stargate. They right now have, okay, like, this is the situation on that, right? Like, we've been voting for them for like the past like 2 rounds or so. They are gonna send through like the extra STG that like we were owed from like voting for them, like obviously like the bonus payment or whatever. Um, and there's like actually something like really interesting cooking up. So for those who aren't familiar, like, SDG has this problem where, like, yes, you can lock it, but the only thing you can do is like vote, right? And obviously no one wants to do that. There's no even benefit to voting other than just like snapshots on like improvements, right? But they have an admin fee that's like gone through the forum, right? So like you can lock up your SDG and generate like stables in ETH, or maybe not ETH, but you can generate like stables through like locking your SDG through like the platform fees, right? And then like what happened was that like no one actually has enough STG to like even deploy the proposal because of like their constitution or whatever. So we will have enough STG after we get like our owed amount from like these OTC bribes, and we'll be pushing through like a the governance post to like enable the admin fees on the SDG, of then which we will lock the SDG and use it as a revenue stream for generating like stables and such. So that's like a pretty exciting development. I guess like it's like things happen with some of these newer projects, but like the nice thing is that we're gonna be sort of at like the forefront of like pushing this through. Obviously like it enables like a really cool use case of like SCG in the same case that like we're gonna be giving you guys back ETH from the stuff we generate through Hidden Hand and Pyrex and Treasury, all that sort of stuff. Now like like we're gonna be able to use like this Treasury asset to do like the exact same thing, right? Um, in terms of like voting going forward, I think like we'll pass this proposal, take in the SDG, and the arrangement will probably be put on pause then, as we'll be using the CVX to like bootstrap like Pyrex probably going forward, right?
The
Um,
arrangement.
the arrangement, the lobbying effort, and then like like we talked with like a few other people, like also looking to like do these like OTC sort of like bribes and stuff so that we can like generate as much as possible. But I don't think like I don't think like the ROI is there the same way that like STG was, because with STG obviously like where we have the benefit of like having like a swinging vote, and on top of that like we're going to be generating like a healthy amount of like stables as like layer 0 develops and stuff, and it'll be like indirect exposure as we start to like move to like Arbitrum and Optimism and all this sort of stuff, where we can sort of like benefit on like the multi-chain realm. It's just like doubling down on like this notion of like diversification and not having to like always have to like track like how CVX was doing. So yeah, that's like pretty exciting. um any
Somebody
comments there,
asked,
guys?
somebody asked, will that rev stream from STG go to rlButterfly holders?
Right. Okay. So this was like the proposal that passed with like rlButterfly, right? So yeah, like the rlButterfly holders do get like a revenue share of the treasury, right? So if we're generating stables through like the SDG, then you guys are also like obviously we'd auto compound it, so you don't have to claim like a million rewards. But like, the SDG and like the stables that are generated through that would get like compounded into ETH and added to like the APY the same way you would see like Pyrex or hidden hand fees. And uh, yeah, I mean, is that the question or
Yeah. No, that
where are
answers
you
it.
looking at the questions? Oh, the chatter.
Yeah, the chatter. Um, Somebody asked about compounder fees being standardized. We'll let them hash that out in the chat, and then we'll revisit it for the recording. Is there anything on that you wanted any more on that? Sorry, that you wanted to touch on, Sammy?
No, I mean everyone's asking for when RL.
Yeah, I was waiting before before we get to that. I was giving it a say. Hold on, we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, this is a good question from
Yeah.
Dan. Have things kind of changed to everything automatically getting swapped for ETH and distributed rather than the native bribe tokens? Okay, like so this is like interesting, right? Because oh, Damien says when. Um, this is like kind of interesting because there was like a ton of tokens, right? Like obviously with Pyrex, there's like the PxCVX, and then there's like the treasury, like there's like CRV, then there's Ohm, then there's like this STG shit, and then there's everything, right? Like there's a ton of stuff that's being generated, right? Um, and it would just be so gas inefficient for you guys, right? Like to like have to claim all of these tokens and eventually just swap them to ETH yourselves, right? Or stables, whatever. So like it's more gas efficient for us, it's more gas efficient for you to just like see it in ETH. If this is something that people want to do, right? Like if this is something people want, like they want to claim the individual assets, then I guess like we can like do something like that. But like we built it to like have the ETH instead, right? And then you can spend your ETH accordingly, buy more butterfly or something, right? So yeah.
Yeah, we'll just assume that everybody wants ETH, right? Like, is there anybody here that doesn't want ETH at all?
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear like an argument.
Yeah, I would love to hear an argument for why you why you wouldn't want ETH. But it should be good. Dan said he likes it, so maybe having 2 or 3 vaults, 1 ETH, 1 USDC, 1 compounding butterfly IDK. Yeah, I think when it comes
So
to
the butterfly one, oh sorry.
go ahead. You're probably about to
Yeah,
say
so the
the same thing.
butterfly one will be done through PxButterfly, right? So like you can put your butterfly in Pyrex, and like auto compound into more butterfly. The whole point is actually like, okay, like so Spell did this, right? Not to like talk about other projects and stuff. I like Spell for what it's worth. But like Spell did this thing where like they were generating so much fucking money and then they just like kept on buying back Spell, and then like like people never saw like an actual diversified income sort of, right? Like they never saw like a revenue stream, right? Like they were just getting more spell, and that just put like unnecessary sell pressure on the token, and there wasn't natural buying pressure, right? So like like actually like we think like if we have the ability to prove that the yield is real, right? Like and the yield you're getting is like true ETH, it's not just um like diluting butterfly yield, right? Like then it speaks really loudly to like our narrative, and like it is also like a really good selling point. When
Uh,
okay, like USDC, like I guess like like I mean if we you guys like really want to do that, like fuck, like we can do it, right? But like I think like the notion is like ETH stables, like same difference, like maybe eventually we'll do it for like dinero or something, so that'll be fun.
ETH stable,
USD,
same
maybe we'll
difference.
put it in USD.
That was an incredible leap in logic there. But all right, so we're getting a lot of wins. Let's start with
Let's start with RL. Let's start with
no, no,
RL.
no, no, no. There was a butterfly one, PxButterfly one. So let's do that one first, since that one's the easiest.
Wait, shouldn't we talk about distributing yield in UST? You know what I mean? Buy the dip.
Bro, just mute your
Buy your
mic back.
bag,
Mute your mic again, bro. God damn.
Exit quietly.
Yeah, just mute your mic again, bro. Okay. Do we want to
Get off
like
the
talk?
stage,
Do we want to talk about PxButterfly, like when that could come around and stuff like that? Because people are, I mean, I think people are generally asking about more assets on Pyrex, but maybe KP can like help fill out the timeline here so people understand how it's going to work.
Yeah. So currently the V2 contracts were sent to the auditors recently, so we're just waiting on them. But the Pyrex contracts can be, since we're using a similar lock-in contract to CVX, we could release it fairly quickly. It's really up to Sammy and Marcel and stuff, because I mean, yeah, it's up to them as to when that'll be released. It's not really an issue on the development side of things. I do want to touch on like a couple, like another sticking point for Pyrex after this, but yeah, I want you guys. Hopefully, that answers the rlBTRFLY thing or PX.
maybe never Cando, you guys want to do it?
Go for it, never.
Yeah. I mean, first, I think it's probably more important that we see, actual yield being generated and being distributed to RL, that we actually prove, it's like one of the safe places in DeFi where actual yield and revenue can be distributed to the users, and then it kind of makes sense to start having a liquid wrapper around it. So first, yeah, let's get people locked in, right, in RL and like native locks, and then we can start thinking about like real demand, if there's real demand for having a wrapper, and we will push it out when it's ready and once we've proven that it works.
Yeah, I mean, the key point to highlight here is like CVX is just such an obvious choice because there's so much yield generated around that ecosystem. And it's like a matter of like any other asset that gets added to Pyrex also has to have like some equivalent setup. Like you don't want to add something that has like no reliable yield accruing to it, and there's like no reason to use Pyrex, right? Or it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to build it, and it wouldn't make sense for users either. So
Yeah. Yeah, Convex is, or CVX is probably one of the most like pragmatic assets and protocols that we could. I mean, it's definitely our main focus right now, but yeah, I mean, since we're on the topic of different like integrations with other protocols and stuff, we have been focusing some of our research efforts on that, and I think it's important for people to understand that Pyrex is just like a series of ideas or principles that we've, I guess, like formalized, and it really is extremely flexible. And so even if CVX were to go to zero, we're not, I mean, like knock on wood, we're not super.
Hey, don't say
concerned, I
that.
suppose. I know we're not recording this, right? But it's yeah, I mean, we're not going to stop expanding, and we're not going to stop building out Pyrex for whichever protocol we end up supporting. I mean, as I mentioned, CVX is the focus right now because we are obviously huge believers in that ecosystem and the protocol. I mean, based on our holdings. but yeah, right now it's more of a matter of which opportunity we should tackle, because, and I think bear markets are amazing for that. You get to take a step back and really evaluate which are the best opportunities to dedicate resources to. Like, it's no longer we don't have to work 16 hours a day to beat our competitors and potentially make a lot of mistakes. We could actually take really deliberate action and make sure that we tackle the best opportunities. And there is a very promising and potentially surprising, I think, expansion for Pyrex, which we're still looking into. But yeah, I think we're focusing on stability and also potential for growth, and we're really excited. Like, what do you do when the opportunities are, or the potential is fairly unlimited, right? That also opens room for an unlimited amount of errors and mistakes. So we have to be really careful. But yeah, I think we really pride ourselves on creating like novel products, and which in turn will are like intrinsically more defensible when it comes to like competitors and stuff like that. But yep.
Sick. And then somebody kind of had a suggestion about the yield in the rlBTRFLY yield that we were kind of talking about. Funky, I don't know if you wanted to like touch on this a little bit. You're kind of responding in chat, but maybe for the recording, if you want to kind of like piece together the conversation.
So which question is this?
The one from Rat Pads that you kind of responded to.
Okay, yeah.
About smoothing out yield.
So like RatPads was suggesting that we could, instead of selling tokens, we could just distribute, groups of tokens to different individuals so that we don't sell tokens and we're still distributing real yield. And I guess my main concern there is if you're giving somebody one token and somebody else is getting a different token at a different point in time, the value of the rewards you're giving could change. So one person would get more than the other. So I think like the two solutions there is either everybody gets the same bundle of tokens, or we give everybody the same token.
Cool. Yeah, that answers that. Let's see. Will rlBTRFLY and PxButterfly release at roughly the same time? No. Px will definitely lag rlBTRFLY, right? Because it's all about just bootstrapping adoption for rlBTRFLY, getting more people depositing, getting the yield flowing, and all of that stuff. I don't think you couldn't do it in any other order.
Right.
What percentage of Butterfly are expected to be locked into rlBTRFLY when it's released? Hopefully, all of it. All of the
Yeah,
Butterfly.
it's a good question. Actually, like I think a lot of projects were like sort of taken back by like how much of their supply was like locked into their locking mechanic, right? Before. So convex and curve had like really good conversion. You could probably relate it back to like first mover advantage. And then you saw like a project like Frax, right, which is also like could be considered like a leader in this department. Like they launched theirs, and until like the convex liquid staking module came out, like it was only like 20% of the supply or something, right? And these other projects, like like maybe 9%, 10%, 15% are sort of getting like locked up, right? The nice thing for us is like we have like we don't have like very high conviction on like these like 4-year locks, or like like 1 to 4 week or 1 to 4 year, and then like the longer you lock, the bigger boost you get. Like obviously you guys know how RL works. Like we are a fan of like the convex module, right, where everyone's on the same page, and you don't get priced out, and you can't get a whale can't take over like all the governance, let's say, right? So yeah, like the convex one, we think it's like easier to convert more of the supply. I think it would be silly to assume like Pyrex won't suck up most of the supply just because like people will want the liquid version. But like before that, like I think 15 to 25% is just like a realistic and like good target to hit. And then as Pyrex comes out, like yeah, I mean we should be gunning for like 70 to 80%, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
if you want to manage the rewards yourself, you could already avoid 10% of the pounder fees. So that removes one other reason, I guess, or reduces, or at least weakens the reason for not locking with Pyrex, because we haven't really seen any strong arguments for why people wouldn't lock with Pyrex. Unless you're like Frax or something and you are bribing gauges and you want to, you have no intent of ever selling your CVX and you want to both collect bribes and vote in order to offset your bribing costs. So, but yeah.
Cool. And then Joker asked, do you expect much competition between the Butterfly tokamak reactor when it's released? That one's like hard to say. It just depends on how much
What was
people
the
actually.
question?
Do you expect much competition from the Butterfly tokamak reactor when it's released?
No, this is good. The whole reason we did the tokamak thing, right? Like, I think, like, obviously, like, yeah, liquidity, direction, and all that sort of stuff is good, right? But like, it would just be it would be like foolish to like consider it competition because right, like, you want as many like token syncs as possible, right? Regardless, we're doing that. Like, you guys might have saw we planning on doing some stuff on like a BPT around Arbitrum, and like, now we're like the tokamak thing passed. And then there's RL, and then there's Pyrex, and then there's just like a bunch of ways to just like, suck up like butterfly supply, right? So, um, I mean, it like to me, it's like the more actually token sinks, the better, you know.
Yeah.
There's no like obviously the intrinsic benefit of like having the butterfly belong to us is that like, it's in our possession. Like, obviously we trust ourselves, like, but Tokamak sort of like takes their times with this sort of thing, and like I think hopefully eventually one day there's like a Y butterfly from like Yearn, and like the more token sinks, like the better, the more token sinks, the better.
I
Yeah.
mean, it increases yield over, I mean, across the whole board, as in, because like the market will figure itself out when more tokens. Basically, there'll be more yield per token in DeFi, which is just great for Butterfly.
The way I see it is that people are probably going to prefer native ETH rewards unlocking like with the native platform over tokamak. That's just my assumption though. But it really just comes down to what the user prefers, like tokamak rewards or ETH rewards, right? That's how
Yeah,
I look at it.
that's what I was gonna add. I mean, it's different strokes for different folks, man. They're gonna use whatever they want to use. But they're definitely not like competition between each other. It's just people are going to go after the yield that they want to see. Another question we're getting is, what type of yield can RL Butterfly holders expect? Maybe Funky, you have some thoughts on this?
I think it's like it would be I know I've seen like other projects like sort of just say like fuck yeah, like 500% APY or something, right? Like, it would be unrealistic to say like what the estimate is, because okay, like, one, Pyrex is getting bootstrapped right now. Hidden Hand is obviously like a very scalable product. Like, there's going to be more and more markets added. One day Balancer might be hot, one day Ribbon might be hot, one day Frax might be hot. And then obviously like the treasury, we're not paper hands like some of these other DAOs. Like, we don't capitulate at the bottom. So like obviously it's dependent on those ecosystems as well, right? So it would be not realistic to like, attach like a percentage we expect, right? But it won't be like a basis point or something, if that's like the question.
Yeah, I think adding on to what Sammy says, because we're in this bootstrapping phase and we're still a growing protocol. That's why for in the V2 RFF we kind of allocated 7% of Butterfly supply as kind of incentives for RL Butterfly in the first year. So with that number, you could get to a number of different figures. One kind of estimate that we came up with a few months ago was like 40 to 50%. But that is mainly driven by the butterfly itself. So, it could be many different numbers, and I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, and there's a good point to bring up here. Somebody said they want to know about the yield after the quote crazy APY in the beginning of Butterfly. Basically they're referring to the staked Butterfly APY early on. So I guess I don't. This person probably hasn't been following the like governance proposals over time, so it'd be a good point to chat about like the difference in yield here.
Yeah, the difference in yield is that you are not the yield in this case, right? Like rebases is like, okay, like I don't regret any of it, right? Like, I think rebases were like a really good thing in terms of like getting the treasury where it is today and stuff like that. But um the truth of the matter is that like that butterfly was just coming out of nowhere, right? We were sort of just like making it to like sustain the bonding program, and then like you guys as butterfly holders were always getting fucked. Um through like rebases, and no matter how big that number was, like, it wasn't sustaining the protocol, it wasn't helping you guys, all this sort of stuff, right? So moving to like these, like, non-dilutive revenue streams, which you guys are like recognizing in real time, is like, much better than like, just like printing butterfly out of nowhere to sort of like, sustain what could be considered by some like an unsustainable mechanism through, like intense bonding programs and stuff, right?
Yeah, and I just want to tack on like they're the way you said that was really aggressive, but like the honest truth is that like projects early on have to make trade-offs between like diluting the supply and like trying to build up an actual ecosystem, right? We see this with stablecoin projects where they have to pay a shit ton in rewards to grow stablecoin yield. In the case of like rebasing and stuff, we needed to grow the treasury, right? Like we needed to get all of these assets into the treasury, and like the best way to do that was through
No,
the
okay,
rebasing
like
mechanism.
Alex, founder admits original product was bullshit. No, I don't think it was bullshit. I think like the butterfly we have now, like obviously I'm like there's a bias, but I'm like fucking crazy bullish on it because like there's no project out there right now that would be able to like even give you ETH because they have nothing, right? For us, like Pyrex wouldn't be able to exist without the treasury that we built. The treasury yield that you guys are going to be seeing would not be able to like be built without V1. Hidden Hand would not have been able to be built if we didn't have all that like PCV and relationships we were building, and I guess like our like knowledge we were building out through like our convex experience and stuff. So it wasn't bullshit. I think it was like the right path, right? But like products grow and they evolve, right? Like it's gonna get even better like after this, right? Like V3 will be even better. So I
Yeah.
don't think it was bullshit. I think it was like the right thing to do. But like obviously like V2 is better. So yeah.
Yeah, we're literally just being honest about the trade-offs that were made. So that's like I think the big difference. I mean, half of these projects would not do the same. So, okay, we're getting. Oh yeah, go ahead, KP.
Token sync part real quick.
Do it.
But just gonna first, I guess, kind of echo what Sammy and stuff are saying, or you know what, I'm not even gonna repeat what he said, but yeah, I don't think Sammy and the other guys like Never and Marcel and stuff and the founding team get enough credit. Like they really, it's not just the assets that are available to build other protocols, but like these sort of yeah, I guess just like the way that there's like a certain way of operating that I feel like really facilitates innovation and you know incentivize building and stuff. Okay, so
Yeah, like one point I want to make is like we launched at like a really interesting time in the market. Like prices were going up, there's a lot of euphoria in the market, and we just really wanted to like capitalize on that. And we moved like really quickly. But like now, like moving forward, we want to make like more mature decisions when it comes to like actually building stuff. And that's kind of like that's what drives a lot of the decision making that we do now. Before it's kind of like, well, we need to move quickly in order to like get something, and that's the reason why we have the
Yeah,
treasury.
even more than move quickly, like we needed to like make certain sacrifices to like be able to like build sort of like a community. That's what the market demanded at that point, and like we had to do it, otherwise like we wouldn't be here today. um and like like with V2, like the nice thing about like the bear market is like we can actually build what we want to do without having to make the sacrifices necessary to sort of like like bring in new people and stuff. And like we know, like it's not like a thing of like we think, it's like a thing of like we know like this is like the best possible path forward, like actually like for all of DeFi, like not just us, but like this is like the best way all DeFi projects should be going. There's like a good tweet, let me find it. Someone was talking about like my conversation in the Umami Discord yesterday. Like, if you guys want to read that, that was good. But like, there was
Just say you're bullish on yourself. You just had a good conversation.
he's shilling himself.
Yeah, bro, he's out here shilling himself on stage. That's crazy.
I was talking with Crypto Condom, like like that guy who was like funding the fees and stuff, and I was just trying to like address it. Okay, like here is the tweet. For like those who can't like read it through the recording, like it's basically like saying like, um like GMX gives you ETH, like Spell eventually will give you MIM, like Butterfly will give you ETH, right? Like, like these are all like real projects that have like actual PMF and like are able to like generate real revenue. And like, that speaks so loudly to the market beyond the fact that you guys will just be getting ETH for holding Butterfly. The fact that like, like the product itself doesn't depend on like, new people coming in and like buying the token, like takes us like really far and creates this like, really novel like flywheel, um, where, like it's again like not dependent on just like new buyers. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've just one thing, like we've gotten a bunch of like price comments and stuff, and I just want to say like a lot of that shit is like all out of our control, right? Like it's kind of funny that we even have to say this at this point, but like the whole market is down, not just like Butterfly or anything else. So like regardless of any decision that was made, like the entire market's down only. So it's like there's not much we could do there. So don't take that out on anybody that's on the team or in
Yeah.
the community or
But
anything like
especially
that.
yeah, like adding to Colton, even like in a bear market, if you're holding tokens, especially governance tokens, what you really want to be holding is something that's actually giving you non-dilutive yield. Because yeah, I guess most people don't want to capitulate the bottom, I guess, or wait for the next run. But if your token's actually giving you non-dilutive yield, especially in ETH, it's more of a comfy hold than just kind of hoping token goes up.
Yeah, and I think what's important is like that everything that we've done up until this point has like led to where we are now, and so we're making strategic decisions based on that. Okay, so
All right, hold up. Let me touch you real quick.
okay,
I forgot to do that. Sorry.
okay, do that really quick.
Yeah. I like one of the things that we're going to be, or we're doing, is we are going to be not only building our own apps on top of our protocols, like for example, providing more use cases where you could use, PxButterflies, either the yield. Imagine, yeah, for example, locking your butterfly, with Pyrex and being able to use that butterfly or its tokenized yield in, say, like pool together, right? I mean, that was an example before that we had. So we're bringing other applications outside of the ecosystem right now into, the Redacted ecosystem. But we can't do it alone. So one of the things that we have in place is our developer incentives. So we're trying to figure out a way to scale our own team by also involving the community. And the great thing is you don't have to, there are other projects and protocols that do this, but it's usually in the form of grants, right? And there's like a process, but we've implemented a way for, you definitely need to talk to somebody from our team, but we'll add you, we'll whitelist your address, and you can build applications without, going through this lengthy process where we're like, okay, we'll give you $10,000, and it's after like 6 months or something. I mean, that's probably not much runway. But we are allowing builders to immediately capture revenue. If they build an interesting enough application that actually gets a lot of usage, it could be a huge opportunity. So yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, go for it.
All right, so we're pushing the
People
hour here.
want, like, people want to date.
I know. All right, hold on. Everybody
The
relax.
streets
All
are
right.
spoken. The streets are spoken.
All right. So we're pushing the hour, and now we will talk about V2 rlBTRFLY stuff. And before we dive into any specifics, I will say that we are on the home stretch. So that's the key takeaway here. So anything said between now and the end of the hour, we're on the home stretch. All right. So whoever wants to take it, take it.
Often, we're going to be leaking some alpha soon, right? But not today.
I mean, you can leak whatever. Okay, whatever. Leak whatever. Anybody can leak whatever they want. Y'all have free reign in the 10 minutes, and I won't stop you. Go. Anybody can go.
Okay, Sammy, are we leaking alpha today?
Just give the people a date, bro.
Okay. So I mean, yeah. So it's being sent for audit. Audit should take like 2 weeks. So yeah, like basically a last week of the month, definitely. The UI stuff, a lot of it's been done already. Like in terms of like revenue distribution for like rlBTRFLY, we're using the same stuff as in hand. So yeah, this is like the home stretch. We just need to get it audited to make sure it's safe. But we've like simplified it as much as possible, so we don't think like there'll be any like risk factors. Yeah, but I want to leave that alpha though.
Okay, so
I guess I was gonna jump in and say like, we're gonna drop article later giving.
That's
more
what I was gonna say. Yeah.
About it, yeah. But I guess we can say that we're cognizant of the fact that RL has taken longer than expected. We've had a strong focus on security, and the audits are taking longer than expected. And to kind of like take that into account, what we're going to be doing is for the people who are locked in the first epoch, they'll get the rewards that would have been received had rlButterfly been launched on 1st of June in that first epoch. So like all of the rewards that would have been paid in June up till first of June up till the first epoch, that will be paid to the first lockers as kind of a super incentive for people to lock early.
This is a good question from Dana. He said, "Aren't there like zero rewards though?" I can't speak this morning.
So treasury, Pyrex, hidden hand, and butterfly incentive rewards. So it's not nothing. It's actually quite a lot.
Yeah. And then Big Butter said, "Do we have a hard or soft date?" Look, all right. So I'm just gonna say this. I'm optimistic that we get it out before the end of June. But the thing is, it doesn't matter either way because you get the same rewards, right? Like that's the big announcement that we had for this is that like even though rlButterfly is not live right this second, you will still receive rewards as if it were if you're among like the early lockers of rlButterfly, right? So like we're trying to make the us being late fact a little bit better for everybody. So we'll make up for it through rewards. And like Funky said, we'll have like a article thing. I don't know when we're going to publish it. I imagine probably like next week at some point or something like this. Yeah, retroactive rewards. That's right. But we'll publish something that's a little more in detail probably in the next week or so. Go ahead, Never. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, especially in the DeFi space, also like we've kind of been one of the most prolific teams at shipping things. So I mean, being late a month on something in DeFi is pretty normal.
Cool. So that's the announcement on rlButterfly and sort of the latter half of V2. Is that a little late, but it's for security reasons. It's because audits have taken longer than we expected. So we're going to make it hold through retroactive rewards and we'll be good. Let's see. Great news. So even if rlButterfly, even if it took 2 more months to get out, everybody would still receive the rewards, right? Yeah. Even if it took 3 more years, you would still eventually get all the rewards. It would just be later. But we're definitely going to get it out as soon as we can, and I'm hoping it's the end of this month. I mean, it all just depends on the audits, right? Like some of that stuff is out of our control. LMAO, this is why companies don't have shareholder meetings every week. Yeah, that's facts. But we do, and we're transparent, so we try to make sure that everybody stays in the loop. Let's go ahead, Sammy.
I was gonna say let's talk about hidden hand before.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about hidden hand before. Okay, so there's a question. Any other interesting stuff in bracket partnerships upcoming for hidden hand? Personally, I'm a big fan of FloorDAO and opens up something I didn't expect to see. Okay, like
maybe I could touch on some points here. Like what's interesting about FloorDAO, for those that have been paying attention, like from the core collections vote, which happened mid-May to end of May, where we saw the emerging collections vote, which for those that don't understand like the differences, because it is a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, the core collections vote is basically the vote that FloorDAO puts up, which basically says like these are the collections that we already have in our collection, I guess, that we're already going to be market making for. So which ones basically will we sweep and provide liquidity to? And then for emerging collections, it's kind of the same thing, but for new collections. So new collections essentially want that market making support from FloorDAO since they have a pretty fat treasury compared to their market cap. So basically, we saw 8x the volume on the emerging collections vote than we did from the, up from the core collections vote, which was the middle of the month. So if we were to see the same trajectory, which is obviously just really optimistic, it would be just under 200K in bribe volume. We had a World Wide Web, like it's some land project that apparently wanted to put up a rather large bribe. We don't know what large means to them. It could be, I don't know, 25K all the way up to 100K. We don't know. But for an NFT project to consider doing that, that was pretty significant. But they only had a day's notice, apparently. And they spoke to their lawyers, and apparently they weren't allowed to do that as a DAO. But they're trying to arrange it in advance for the next time. So we're expecting to see some pretty significant volume on the FloorDAO market by the end of June. So really excited for that one. As far as like the MetaFi / NFT space is concerned, the next market we'll be bringing online should be DropsDAO. And as far as they're concerned, it's more so like a lending and borrowing platform where you can lend NFTs like your Bored Ape or your CryptoPunk or Cyber Brokers most recently. So you'll be able to basically borrow ETH or USDC against those. And yeah, so basically, as far as that whole NFT collection, lending, and borrowing space is concerned, it's actually opened up a pretty interesting vertical. As everyone here is familiar with, NFT treasuries are just sitting on stupid amounts of ETH. Like, obviously, the goal is to get a massive collection, whether it's
And Omnia's coming for all of their pockets, bro. Every one of them.
literally for every single one of them.
The hidden hand,
No one is
just stealing NFT treasuries.
basically. So imagine we were able to get like, the Ape Coin DAO or whatever for Bored Apes to put up some bribes or something to increase credit limits for their collections on JPEG, or basically increase like loan to value ratio on DropsDAO. So basically, that's kind of the idea, right? So it is an interesting vertical that's obviously never been explored yet. So obviously, like when people look at the traction and they're not seeing massive bribes like 250K, 100K here, 50K there, that's kind of why, right? Like this is still uncharted waters. So people are still setting the precedent, like different DAOs putting up different amounts of money and stuff. So what we saw with Began Punks winning the vote, and they won the vote due to like over 4x the amount of bribes that were put up from their community. It showed that the hidden hand product worked, and we're just that much closer to like full-fledged product market fit and like hitting that stride that we want to get to. So that's more background on it.
Dope. Somebody said go for GameFi treasuries. They need help investing in a
That'd be
DeFi.
huge.
I don't think any like NFT or game related treasury is safe from Omni as of late. He's
Probably
been
not.
out here.
Probably not.
He's been out here, so don't worry.
Yeah,
don't. All of
just so
those
that we don't
treasuries will make their
go-
way to the redacted treasury.
But they're
just so that
stagnant.
we don't
They're all
go
stagnant.
over the hour limit. So okay, like Damien, to ask you a question. All of the cool new DeFi projects that are launching like now are like launching with Hidden Hand, which is like really good. We've like really built like a cool Lego here. To name names, Citadel from our friends at Badger. That is like a vibing event, which is sort of around like the knighting event, which is kind of like a DAO focused thing. But at the same time, like Frax is committed over 2 million. A bunch of other DAOs are committing, like 6 figures and stuff like that. So that's going to be a really big one. Aura, which is like in the process of launching right now, they're doing the LBP. They'll also be using Hidden Hand, so we're kind of like doubling down on Balancer there. Um, there was one with like drops, Omnia, like you were saying, like, like also doubling down on the NFT stuff. And then as you saw, like, we're also looking at like, well, that's all stuff that's like actually in development. And then in terms of like what we're like looking at or talking to, super bullish on like what's going on with like Arbitrum right now. Had some really good conversations recently. I think there's some really dope stuff to do with like GMX, DopeX, yeah, like all these like Arbitrum projects and stuff, right? um so that's like what we're looking at, taking it multi-chain in terms of like what's getting done right now. It's like these projects that are launching and making sure like Hidden Hand and Redacted is like all over it, like if there's something that's hot right now, like we want to be there. So yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So I said any racket news at a later date. Today's not that date. Okay, we're pretty much at the hour. I think that's most of the big stuff. Any
I guess just final
yeah, Figgy,
community
yeah,
updates.
Figgy, give a last like community thing for people.
Yeah, to end things off, pretty much like what's gonna be coming out for community events is we have Wasiverse NFT giveaway for whitelist. Just something for the community, entertainment, or gather town, typical stuff. As well as next week we're gonna have our first recording of the podcast. That's probably gonna be out within the next 2 weeks. As well as a newsletter that's gonna be pushed out next Wednesday. And finally, we're going to have a spaces with Citadel at some point next week. So just keep an eye out for those events. And yep, that's all from me.
Dope. Well, awesome, everybody. Thanks for hopping on. It's sick that this many people come to these calls every week. It's always fun hanging out and chatting shit. So appreciate everybody. I'll get the recording up as soon as I can. Yeah. Anything else from anybody? Are we good?
Good. See everyone.
Good. All right. See everyone later.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.
See you guys.